Hello, so today we're going to be going over a Chrono game. So this is going to be 6 Chrono, it's going to be vertical Chrono, and this was one of my more recent games that I had played. And it's very strong. If you don't know, Chrono is actually doing really well in the stats. There's been a lot of some very small changes that might not seem very consequential, but cumulatively Chrono has been has gone into a really good spot where 6 Chrono is very strong. A lot of it hinges on the fact that Karma is very strong. But also Camille and Vex all kind of working together to make a strong board. Warren's playing 6 Chrono if you get the Emblem. So that's what this game is going to be. It's basically just going to be a Karma game, and it's going to convert to being a very strong board, because the board itself is quite flexible and you can cap very high with it, which is very nice. Very nice to see and very nice to have. So for my early game, I basically just have a bunch of AP items, and we're going to slowly like play towards it. I think that I don't know if I hit a Chrono Emblem instantly, but we're going to see. But at one point I do hit the Chrono Emblem. It is Prismatic Prelude, so there's a chance that I just hit Chrono Emblem and I take it. But it is quite strong, and it's very good to take in a lot of these cases, especially if you don't have a lot of direction. So here we're just playing out the opener. Okay, so it's Preserver, Crown. Upgrade Adventure is pretty bad nowadays, so I don't necessarily want to take it unless I have a really good spot for it, because the cash outs aren't as good and it's a little bit difficult to play around. But we're looking for something that gives us a lot of direction, because especially early game, especially with a Prismatic Prelude, some people are going to have very strong boards that they're going to know very well what they're playing towards. Here I end up taking, it's probably just taking a movable object. A movable object basically gives you the Randuin's own, and it basically increases its hex range by 1. So it basically, you can get Randuin's on your entire team, and it has increased effectiveness. So this is still just a go-to really strong combat augment, which is why I took it. I think there was also I'm the Carry Now that I passed up on. Yeah, I'm the Carry Now is also another good option. I just think it's a little bit easier to play around Randuin's. If we go in terms of prismatics, you'll see that a lot of times the verticals and the golems are the best prismatics to play around. So we're gonna look at the stats real fast. Yeah, so usually this is what I mean by like direction, right? A lot of the time, hitting one of the early emblems gives you a lot of direction, is very strong, because it makes it so that you know exactly what you're playing, as well as how to cap out your board, and the vertical traits are all very strong. A lot of the high percentage as well, a lot of the high placing value of spats for prismatics, a lot of times is that you hit the max of the vertical as well, right? If you're playing around Frost or Honeymancy, a lot of times you're taking it and you already have a Honeymancy emblem. For example, you can see Honeymancy averages like a 4.2 at 2-1, but then at 4-2 all of a sudden it averages sub of 4. And a lot of that is because you just have an increased chance of winning, because a lot of times you would have gathered a spat over the course of the game, and then you have the +2 that gives you the max of the vertical trait. And you'll see that a movable object is a little bit worse than it was last set. There are a couple of other options that I did pass up on, but this is very generic and it's very strong on average. And the idea is that it just gives you a bunch of armor for your entire team. Now, in terms of I'm just going to go to Team Builder real fast, because this is going to be a 6 Chrono game. So I just want to highlight the Chrono champions while we're tabbed out of the game, as well as while it's early game. But basically, if you read Chrono, so Chrono basically now, it gives your whole team basically gets ability, your Chronos gain an ability power, which is going to be majority of your team. And then 2 Chrono basically get this heal once this countdown happens. 4 Chrono, you basically get the whole board freezes, which is something we can talk about as well. And then after freezing, you get a bunch of extra AP. And then the 6 Chrono makes it so that the freeze lasts a little bit longer, your team heals more, and the Chronos basically gain more AP and more attack speed. So 6 Chrono now warrants to be played, because if you have a setup where you have a Karma, ideally you have a Karma and a Camille. But if you have a Karma and a Camille, you basically can do absolutely bonkers crazy shit with it, because it's going to be so insanely strong for your late game. If you look at it, Chrono especially, you can usually play it alone. Because Chrono gives a bunch of AP, you always want to play more Chrono. It kind of eliminates the need to play Incanter sometimes, but you're usually going to play Incanter for Karma. So usually a lot of times you're going to play Cassiopeia on your board just to give Karma Incanter, because she's going to be your main carry. Karma, you want some rendition of anti-heal as well as blue buff. I think red buff, blue buff, +1 is usually a really good item set on her. A lot of times I'll make Shiv for the shredding because it makes it really nice when Karma hits the backline that she can do a little bit more damage. There's also a lot of win cons with this comp in terms of getting artifact anvils, which we will also talk about. Vex makes a shield if you read Vex's ability. She gains a shield for 4 seconds. If you watched my artifact guide, which came out yesterday, if you're here from that, welcome, and make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content. This is going to be a VOD review, so it's a little bit different from yesterday's guide. But if you remember from yesterday's guide, Vex makes a shield, so she's going to be good to hold pretty much any of the Ornn artifact frontline items, as well as the ones that have shielding. Some of the best items on her are Forbidden Idol and Unending Despair, for example, that can really help cap out your board very high. Because Jax and Camille also give you multi-striker +2, you can basically just play many different ways to cap out this board. A lot of times, because Chrono heals your whole team, you're going to want to put some sort of melee unit, either an Olaf, which is a little bit less popular but quite often played, an Olaf, a Gwen, or a Fiora. In most cases, you're playing Fiora, and then because of Preserver with Zillion, you can cap out your board around having a Morgana. This is typically what your board will look like, and you'll play something like the Karma Warriors, but you can also play Olaf. Olaf has his own little bit of tech with Chrono, especially, because Olaf, if you read his active, he gets crowd control immunity, so if your Olaf casts before your Chrono countdown happens, then your Olaf will not get stunned by the Chrono countdown, which is really interesting as well. You can also build a QSS on some of your melee units, but typically you're going to put a Chrono emblem on somebody. Let's just say we're playing around Fiora. You will put a Chrono emblem on the Fiora, and that will give you your 6 Chrono, and you'll play something like this. You can also put on a Morgana if you have the Morgana early, because then she'll just heal and have more AP to work with. But your board is very flexible, because even if you're looking at this setup, you can also play around Vertical Arcana, because you can easily fit in the Hecarim for the multi-striker on the Camille, and then a Tom Kench plus Vertical Arcana to cap out your board around Arcana. You can play the Warrior variation. You can play Vertical Preservers as well and just play multiple Preservers if you think that you have enough damage already with the current units. But basically, there's lots of different synergies that you can easily fit in, either through the form of the Multi-Striker, Preserver, and Witchcraft. So a lot of times you're just going to try and play around Fiora. It's also good for item economy. But if you have a Camille early, you can itemize the Camille with the Fiora items, whichever one you hit first, you'll itemize, and usually play around this line. That's vaguely what it's going to look like. So let's just go back to the game. But the main thing you should always think about Chrono is that you're quite flexible, right? You can play multiple AP units, for example, if you get AP items, but basically you're going to try and prioritize Karma items, prioritize tank items, and then you're going to try and establish a dual carry, right? That's the idea. So I'm showing you Fiora, for example. I talked about Gwen, I talked about Olaf, I talked about Camille. The idea is that you want to very, very, very badly have a dual carry established, and usually it pairs up really nicely to have a Fiora, because Fiora does really well with swords and bows and items that maybe, and gloves, for example, because she's an AD unit. Because if your Karma is a backline AP unit, a lot of times you're going to dedicate all your AP items towards the Karma, and then you're going to have to figure out what to do with your AD items, and you'll either have to itemize the Camille if you find her early enough, or a Fiora, and that's why Fiora is the go-to usually. If you don't have Fiora, for example, you could just play towards having like a really, really strong tank with lots of preservers in that will help out the whole team. You can also play towards Gwen if you have other AP items. Gwen also likes blue buff. If you just get dropped like tier, you know, don't worry about it. You can just itemize for a Gwen, and Gwen pairs up nicely with something like Bard that fits in Preserver as well. But basically, you have a lot of flexibility. Typically, you'll see this board played with 4 Chrono if you don't have the Chrono spat. In that case, you're typically just dropping the Vex as well as the one of the Camille or the Jax, right? Because you don't need to play everybody. Usually just play Karma Preservers. With 6 Chrono, you're basically just going to drop some of the Preservers because you get so much healing from the Chrono anyways that it's fine. Often you usually won't see dual backline carries though. You could still do it. You could do like Karma Rise and play some sort of variation of that type of board with Preservers. The reason that you really like to have melee carries with the Chrono board is because of the Chrono healing. The healing basically can give melees a second lease of life. Imagine if your Fiora dives the backline. Right, imagine if Fiora makes it to the backline, she's about to kill the enemy carry, and she's really low HP, bang, Chrono ticks off, and then Chrono heals her back up to 100%. It's that type of synergy that works really well. Because the melee users are going to lose HP and they're going to take a lot of damage, having the Chrono just appear and just suddenly save everybody and make everybody live and give them all a bunch of HP, it synergizes really well with having melee carries. That's why, even in the past, before Karma used to heal, so that's why Chrono worked really well with melee. And that's why 4 Chrono, Warrior is a good setup, 6 Chrono with Warriors is a good setup. It's mostly for that synergy, because the healing just basically, it's like a bailout for all your melee units. So here on my augment, I hit the Chrono +1, so now we're just dedicated towards 6 Chrono. Before I was kind of thinking a little bit flexibly, I was like, okay, let's just play whatever units we can. We have Randuins, in my opinion, so it's like whatever I can play, as long as it's not like a Bastion frontline type situation. I'm pretty sure Randuins is pretty good on everybody. But now we're locked in to play Karma. Like I said before, Randuins is very flexible. That's why I took it. It's not as forcing as some of the other augments. So when you see Randuins, Omen, a lot of times you're trying to play, you can play pretty much anything, right? It works really well with Honeymancy as well, like Honeymancy reroll. But in this case, because I have Chrono +1 now, I'm basically just going to play towards 6 Chrono and Karma as a carry. Otherwise I would have waited to see some of my items, and if I had some better items that fit more of a Rise board, for example, if I had items that fit a like reroll board, for example, if I hit a lot of copies of other units, then I would be more inclined to play around those type of sets. I think there is a multi-striker reroller in the lobby in this game. Yes, there is. Right there, there's the Jax 3 guy. I think that guy took like, when I was playing this game, I had, like, a lot of multi-striker units. I wasn't angling multi-striker this game, even though I have it in, and I have this Cassidon. I was just trying to play my strongest board that was my early game board, which had, like, some Chrono and multi-striker units. The other guy hit, I think it was, what's it called? The charm, not the charm, the prismatic that gives you... Build-A-Bud, that's what I'm trying to find. He hit Build-A-Bud into Jax, so I already knew that I wasn't going to be playing multi-strikers because that guy's spot is going to be way better than mine ever will be. So that's why, like, you know, item-wise and thought-wise, why I'm angling more towards playing a different line, some sort of AP flex based on my items. A Slam Spark early because it's pretty generic as well. So now on the carousel here, I'm going to be looking for a tier. There is no tier, so I'll probably take a bow. Bow will be great for red buff. Red buff is really good on Karma. You don't have to worry too much about greeting for items. Usually you want anti-heal on Karma. The anti-heal, either Morello or red buff, both do burn and wound, which basically either prevents healing and also does a percentage of HP as damage. Because Karma does like damage over time and hits the backline, it actually synergizes really well to just spreading a bunch of anti-heal as well as with the damage ticks. Just make everything great. And here we go, we high roll into a Karma. So that's great. I should get my inking working. Give me 1 second. Let me get out the inking app. I need to record a new, like last set, I had like a screen that I would play at the beginning that would be like, make sure you subscribe, blah, 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 blah. I need to make one of those again. I just realized that I never used it. It's like halfway through the set. I was kind of lazy. I keep putting it off. So I'm going to record that for tomorrow. So I don't have to keep telling people to subscribe. I can just play it at the start of the video, like I used to do. But anyways, finding this Karma early is great. It means that I'm going to stabilize a little bit better. A lot of times when you're playing around 4 cost and there's a lot of rerollers in the lobby, it's really hard to manage both your HP and your econ. So in this case, it was really hard for me to save a lot of HP. This guy has this Jax, but his Jax items are absolutely fucking horrible. So I don't know what this guy ended up doing. I think he wants to play Hecarim reroll because he itemized items for Hecarim more so than Jax. And I think, like, I don't really understand what the point of it is, but maybe just got unlucky with his items. Because his Jax items are fucking awful. Like, Sterix is not a good Jax item, in my opinion. Maybe it's a little bit better in some cases, but it's not very great. Because Jax usually want AP, because AP transfers strictly into armor and damage reduction for him. Like his AP gives him... gets converted into armor, and then the armor gets converted into damage, so it's like way more efficient just itemize pure AP on him. But you know, I digress, it's fine. So we have red buff. We have a tier, so we can always make like an adaptive or a Shojin. The best item on Karma is going to be blue buff, but we can kind of work around that, right? Because as long as we have one tier, you can probably make any other mana item, and it won't be like, you know, the greatest item ever, but it'll be enough to stabilize. So I'm pretty low HP. I'm not that low. I'm 56, which is actually okay. I've been taking not too bad of a loss. Like when I'm taking losses, I'm not taking too bad losses. Which is really nice because that means that I have a lot of flexibility when I actually make it to level 8 for my deep roll down. So I'm around 60 gold on level 7 at neutrals. That's good. Usually want to be at least 50 gold on level 7. So it's not that bad of a spot, even though like you'll see my health that I'm at the bottom of the screen. Most of the people in the lobby are very close in HP. Also, my inking didn't reset. Let me reset it again. There we go. So what I was going to point out is that even though I'm like the second lowest HP here, this guy's 57, this guy's 60, this guy's 60, right? There's a lot of us that are very close in HP. So there's a good chance that I can stabilize out. Here, and like I said, we can't greed too much, so we just make Shojin. So I just made Shojin. Right? We just have to make Shojin. I'm playing a Preserver. I'm holding on to this Gwen, by the way, because Gwen... I can get in Sugarcraft with the Bard and the Preserver, so it all synergizes together. Remember what I was saying, that you have a lot of flexibility with how you play around your items and your units. I'm fighting another reroller, so I expect to lose this. This guy hit Worth the Wait into a Rumble 3, and then decided to play Honeymancy reroll with it and found Best Friends, or Beast Friends, however you want to pronounce it. So he's going to be very, very strong. This Karma is absolutely going to shred through units, by the way. So she is very, like, not shred, like, reduce magic resist. I mean, like, she's actually going to, like, annihilate units. Like, she's going to delete their HP really fast. But, this is the problem a lot of the time with this patch, is, like, when there's, like, these really strong rerolls, sometimes, like, you know, now I really have to hit, right? I'm trying to greed as much HP as possible. So we want to try and hit, obviously 6 Chrono will be a very good win out clause. If we don't hit 6 Chrono, we really need to find a lot of upgrades in order to make sure that we beat a lot of the rerollers that have a lot more HP than me. Here I take Portable Forge. So if you watched my Ornn Artifact guide yesterday, what was the main takeaway that I said in that video? And, you know, think about it for a second. And the main takeaway was, you shouldn't really take Ornn Artifacts unless you have a comp that can really accept the Ornn Artifacts, or if you're in a position where it's going to bail you out. In this case, there's many items that fit on Vex, right? Forbidden Idol, basically all of the shielding items work really well on Vex and make her extremely tanky. There's Blightening Jewel and a lot of the other AP items like Zonya's or Deathfire Grass. Like pretty much any AP item can fit pretty nicely on this Karma. And I'm missing an item on my Karma. As you can see, I only have 2 items. So there was a lot of outs, right? Besides, I'm not looking for necessarily anything game-winning. If I hit Blightening Jewel, I would be in a game-winning situation. But I hit something almost as good. This Vex is going to be unkillable for most of this lobby. The only people that will be able to kill me are people that have an absurd amount of damage. But anybody who has not fully hit their board yet, or does not have everything 3-starred, if they're re-rolling, they are probably going to lose to me. Right now I'm playing 5 Chrono. It's just because I don't want to dedicate a remover to this Jax, and I also don't know who I'm going to play. I can technically play a warrior instead of this Fiora. Or instead, I could play a warrior instead. That's what I should be doing. Sorry. I should be very clear about that. So right now, 5 Chrono doesn't really do anything. This Jax is kind of useless on my board. I'm playing extra Preservers, and I put a Frontline Preserver. What I really should be playing is a warrior for Fiora. Warrior doesn't matter that much because it's Fiora 1 right now and she has no items, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But check this out. This fight, this Vex is an absolute demon. You see the Forbidden Idol just keeps getting max HP. She's going to heal everything with the Chrono. This Callista has been targeting this Vex this whole time. It's Callista 2. And the Vex tank, that's a Vex 1, right? That's just a Forbidden Idol diff, obviously. Forbidden Idol on her is going to be really, really strong. But that's why I took Ornn Artifact, right? It fits really well into this team. There's not really every single frontline item will be good on Vex, and everything else kind of makes sense. Something else, you can't craft a Chrono spat if I'm not mistaken, so this doesn't really matter. So I'm not too upset about that. But as you can see, this is what I was saying. I lost 1 fight, and I won 2 fights, and all of a sudden, I'm in a good spot for getting 4th this game, out of nowhere. I am 5 Chrono. I can fit in a little bit of a better board. With the Chrono +1, I should try and play like a Preserver Karma board. make something that looks similar to let me just pull up the stat thing, right? Like if I'm not 4 Chrono, right, you can drop this, and then like, you know, if you're playing Vex because you have the Vex items for her, you can definitely play Vex. But a lot of times you'll play something like, you know, Warrior plus extra preservers, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, right? And then 8 would be whoever. Let's pick one. Basically any Frontline or another preserver. Let's just say Morgana. Right, you can make a board that looks like this with 4 Chrono and a spat, right? Because you have 1 2 3 Chrono, and then you can Chrono spat whoever you want to do damage during the timeout period. You can either put on Morgana for tankiness, Fiora so she can do damage during the Chrono period, or Gwen to do damage during the Chrono period. But you can easily play something like this. You can even drop Incanter, because a lot of times Incanter doesn't matter that much on Karma. And you can play something else to kind of fix up your board. But that's what I mean. There's lots of options. A lot of times you would play just 2 Chrono, right? This is like the standard, like something like this is like the standard level 8 Preserver board, which you can also play with the Chrono +1, right? Where you just play Vertical Preserver, Fiora, Gwen, Nasus, because he's just going to heal so much with the Chrono time click down, right? So there's stuff like this, and this is what I'm saying. You're just like losing 1 or 2 of these units to play an extra Chrono unit until you stabilize, right? Until you can make it to 6 Chrono, you can just play the same board. Just throw in an extra Chrono unit. You lose Shapeshifter, but you get 4 Chrono in, which is a little bit better. And that's it. Very easy. Very easy, very flexible. I also have the Randuins, which makes my whole team super tanky. I'm still on Vex 1. There is a Viger Vex reroller in the lobby, which is really unfortunate. So it's going to be really hard for me to even find single copies of this Vex because there's so few remaining in the pool because this other guy bought them all. As you can see on my bench, I'm holding on to Briar just in case. I could play Briar with the Chrono +1. It's very good. And then you can just play Nasus because of all the healing that you get, because the combination between Chrono and everything else. Chrono and Preserver, excuse me. But looking around, this guy's going for like Callista 3. We gotta watch out for him. There's a lot of very, very, very strong players in the lobby and very, very, very high roll boards. Right now, I'm still Vex 1. It was lucky that I high rolled into this Karma 2. If I didn't high roll the Karma 2, I probably would have lost 1 or 2 fights. I'd be somewhere around here in terms of HP. But this board is definitely not the weakest it could be. The main thing is that I need to I could fix my board. It's just laziness, by the way. I could easily just drop one of these Chrono units to, like, probably just drop Jax to play the Warrior just to have a little bit of extra damage. But, you know, it's okay. Here, I think I always make Redemption. The reason I make Redemption here is because Forbidden Idol gives maximum HP, and then Redemption recovers maximum HP. So my Vex will just keep building up HP, and then the Redemption will continue to heal that HP. In addition to the Chrono, it basically makes her unkillable. And here, I think I'm just trying to level to 9 because I feel like I'm very strong. This I just botched, by the way. This is the problem with Randuins for me, at least. I make decisions late sometimes. I needed to like move my whole board over to this side because I want to have better positioning against the Rise player that I was fighting against. But it's fine. Now that I have a little bit more of a stable board, I might actually win against this guy, which would be really funny. I don't think I will, but it's very close, right? If my Karma was on the right side, I might have won this, because if I was able to snipe the Kog'Maw, I think I can deal with the Rumble. But yeah, we're just going to lose to reroll boards because we didn't hit everything. If we have Vex 2 also, we win most of those fights, right? Those fights are close, and I'm Vex 1, right? I have Hecarim on here because I'm just like trying to play towards Camille, which isn't really the best thing. I wouldn't suggest doing what I'm doing. You shouldn't be playing Camille. And yeah, that's what I was saying. The guy with the Jax early just played towards Hecarim, which I think is not correct. I think if you have that many Jaxes early, like if you start the game with a Jax 3, you should definitely build Jax items, not Hecarim items. But maybe that's just me. I know he played for max cap, which makes sense. But like he lost so much stability. Like he lost so much HP because instead of making Jax items, he made these items for this Hecarim that he didn't have yet. And like now, like look, with the Chrono time stop, I'm pretty sure I just beat this guy. Straight up. Like look, he can't kill the Vex. Right? This guy's continuing to get stunned because of Zillion Bomb. Right? We just fucking cheesed this guy. That's Vex 1, by the way. right? In these type of setups, Vex is gonna absolutely destroy everybody. So we're playing for pretty much playing for like 4th right here. If we can find Vex 2, Fiora 2, and a Camille, then we'll be a lot happier. Here I just push the levels. I could roll for Vex, but I think that it's just so unreliable to roll for Vex. I could have also lost this Jax ages ago. I think it's just because I was streaming. Sometimes when I'm live, I make dumb mistakes like this because instead of like focusing on this, I'm so focused on like, you know, stream, is stream up, songs right, all of that stuff, like all the live aspects. And then I have to focus so much on positioning, looking at boards, scouting, that sometimes I literally forget to see like, oh yeah, I just have a Jax here, right? Like I can lose this Jax and play pretty much anything that's more important, right? I can literally lose him and play Arcana, right? Like there was a Xerath in one of my shops. It's definitely better than this Jax. Anyways, watch my Vex 1 tank a bunch. This is Forbidden Idol Vex. Easy clap. I did not expect to beat the Fairy guy, by the way. The Fairy guy looks very, very capped out. He doesn't have, what's it called? Katarina 3, but I wasn't expecting with my shit-ass board to beat this guy. And that's a really important note, because the Fairy guy was the strongest in the lobby. Now, let's look at the items here, right? What items do I need? There's a Morgana, yes. Morgana is very important. This is going to be a really important note that I want to make very, very clear, because I often complain about griefing in some of the games. I don't need another item here, so I just take the Fairy +1, right? I get pinged for it. I'm going to explain something very, very clearly. This guy is the only guy that I think could beat me in this lobby. I've effectively beaten everybody except the Blitzcrank player, like the Honeymancy reroll player. But this guy, if he has a Fairy +1 and he has Katarina 3, he can easily just fit in Warrior, and I will most likely lose this game. Because I'm able to beat this guy right now when he has his whole board upgraded and I don't even have my board upgraded, I can actually play for first. Right, I'm not even 6 Chrono yet. We find the Vex because I think the Viger player died. So I took the Emblem, right? The reason I took the Emblem is because there was no other item that I really needed. Technically Rabadons would be really, really good to put on Karma, but I'm not gonna get, I already have 3 items on Karma. There was no Fiora item, and I have my triple tank item, so I didn't need a tank item. So all the other items on the carousel weren't that great for me. This Fairy +1 doesn't really do anything, but I'm griefing this guy because he's the only player that can beat me. Right, so it is in my best interest to grief him. It is not a grief where I am just choosing somebody and saying, fuck that guy in particular, I don't like him, I'm griefing him. It's like, no, that guy is the strongest player in the lobby, and the only way I lose this game, once I hit 6 Chrono, by the way, because I don't have 6 Chrono yet, but I can actually play for first if I have 6 Chrono, because I know now that I'm strong, because I was able to beat him with a suboptimal board. The only way I lose this game is if that guy somehow scams a 9 Fairy. And you might say, he doesn't even have a Fairy spat. What does it matter? Just let him have the Fairy spat. I guarantee you, if you watch this video, I guarantee you this guy's going to find a spat. What does he have? A spat. You know why? Because when you're high rolling, when you have a lot of gold, you roll for charms. And eventually, you are going to find a charm that gives you either the spat or the, what's it called? The fucking thing. The frying pan. And the other problem with it is that he has Pandora's. So even if he hits it, he can definitely make it, right? He can definitely make the right +1, right? So even if he gets that Fairy on another carousel, if he gets another Fairy, that's the only way I lose. So now I have Vex 2. Vex 2 against this guy, I 100% beat. This is obviously a clone, so take it warranted. It's not guaranteed that I beat him. But I'm pretty sure that I will win against this guy. Okay, I lost against him again. I'm pretty sure I beat this guy if I get 6 Chrono in. That's why I took the Fairy +1, because I'm trying to play for first, and that's the only way I can win. Okay, we found Camille, we have 6 Chrono now. We're fine. Now we actually can win. Because we have Vex 2, Karma 2, 6 Chrono is so fucking strong. I'm also going to get an item for Fiora here. We're basically going to be the strongest in the lobby right now. There's a chance we can still lose to the Honeymancy reroll because it's just so fucking strong and he's so far ahead. But it's not going to be... we should win, right? So this guy now, if I didn't take the Fairy +1, by the way, I probably would go third this game. Just because of HP alone. Because the Honeymancy guy is hard to beat. And if that guy has 9 Fairy, the 9 Fairy is going to win. So I'm going to lose eventually to the Honeymancy guy that has twice as much health as me. So that's why I took the Fairy crown. Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully, or sorry, the fairy +1. Hopefully it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense to you right now, just use your critical thinking. The griefing there was essential for me to go first. And that's the way you should always think about griefing. It shouldn't just be like, fuck that guy in particular, or screw that guy, or that guy's going 8th, I'm gonna hold these units to make sure he goes 8th. It's like you should always worry about the person that directly affects you. For me, I griefed the person that was the strongest next to me. If that guy hits fairy +1 and he fits in with Katarina 3 warrior, I'm pretty sure he can beat me, and I'm pretty sure he's stronger than the Honeymancy player, because the Honeymancy player is just playing like Kog'Maw with hunters. He doesn't have like a, you know, a Vigor 3 like 7 Honeymancy setup or something like that with mages where he's capping very high. He doesn't have Arcana in either because he's playing hunter variation. So because he's playing the hunter variation, he doesn't have like vertical Arcana. So the only person that could beat me is the fairy guy. That is something that directly affects me. It's the same as if you're playing for 4th. If you're playing for 4th and there's another guy that's also 5th, like you're 4th, somebody's 5th, you grief that guy, because that guy's the only guy that's going to affect your positioning. You don't grief somebody else. And that's my main takeaway. I want it to be very clear, because I make my stance clear sometimes, and sometimes, especially when I'm streaming, you might hear me bitching about getting griefed, you might hear me bitching about complaining. The reason I get upset when I get griefed is not because of this. I respect when this happens. There's lots of games where I say, that was a very good decision, he griefed me because it directly affected him. I hate it when somebody just like decides to fuck with you and it doesn't actually like cap out or change anything about their own position or their board, right? Here it made sense because I'm playing against this guy that I need to try and get a better position against, but it doesn't work with anybody else, right? That's why I'm only griefing that guy, because, you know, watch, I'm pretty sure the final fight is going to be me against the fairy player. And had I given him the fairy +1, I would have gotten 2nd or 3rd. This guy's also going for Callista 3, by the way, so I gotta be really careful, because if he just hits it, we just lose also. But yeah, see, that's what I mean. This guy, if he was playing Vertical Arcana, it would have been a little bit scarier, but he's not, so it's fine. Also, I think Camille can make better use of the Chrono stats, so I might switch items over to Camille if I hit Camille too. But this guy, I don't expect him to beat me now. Even with the fairy +1, he got warrior in, I'm pretty sure, for his, he's just playing an extra Callista. So I'm not too worried about this, because with the Chrono +1, Vex 2 is going to tank everything, by the way, so it should be fine. Okay, okay. I know what my mistake was. My mistake was I was on the same side of the Callista, trying to snipe her. I need to snipe out the Milio first. I have to swap sides, and then I win against that guy. There's a Honeymancy +1, but I don't think it matters to that guy because he's not going to be 7 Honeymancy. He just doesn't have enough gold right now. I want healing here. Healing is for either Fiora or Camille. So if I hit for the Fiora or Camille, I'll be in a good spot. Okay, Camille 2. I'm probably going to switch items over to Camille here. It's a huge spike, by the way, so I do expect to be a lot stronger for my next battle. And yeah, it's a little bit suboptimal because I don't have like everything in. I think the Preserver is more important. I need to swap sides though, because I want to be on this side against the Fairy player. That's the more important matchup. As you can see, the Fairy player found a +1. I was able to beat me, even without 9 Fairy. I'm pretty sure I can win against the Fairy player so long as I position to kill the Milio first. Milio gives damage amp over time, and I think that's the bigger problem, right? Because if a unit already has full items and he drops items on them, he gives them extra damage. So I don't want the Milio to be like last alive, because then the Callista is just gonna have so much damage it's gonna chew through my entire board. This guy's one off Callista, so I'm gonna buy and sell 4 costs. The reason I'm buying and selling them is so that they can get put back into the pool. But yeah, if he hits Callista 3, he hits Callista 3. There's nothing I can really do about it. I tried to hold on to it. But this is the correct side that I want to be on. I want to be on opposite side here. Usually you want Karma on the same side as the carry, so she can snipe the carry. But because this guy's 7 Fairy, it's going to be really hard because the Callista is going to be very tanky. So I want to instead just kill the Milio. If the Milio dies, he loses a lot of item value, and then that works out really well for me. I can also, now that I have Camille too, this Camille is going to be an absolute demon. With Deathblade and healing, the Camille will be able to jump around, do a bunch of damage, and I get all my Chrono healing. Yeah. So as you can see, I have a lot of units on this Milio already. The Milio might die before the Katarina, which is really great, but it's not even that close. This is once you know, obviously Camille 2 made a huge difference here, but also just making sure that my Karma isn't getting like early sniped or early damage from the Callista is pretty good. Last fight I had a lot of problems with the damage, so the Camille 2 helped out a lot there. But yeah, this was the final board. So 6 Chrono, very strong. Vex with Forbidden Idol, very strong. I had a very good chance to win here. I didn't feel like my spot was very good, but as soon as I was able to beat this guy in the mid game, this board doesn't cap very high, by the way. I understand that he has Diana too, and he has Frost, and he has all of this stuff. It's often better to just play Vertical Arcana. Kog'Maw with the Hunter setup, it doesn't do that much. Like, the 4 Hunter doesn't help that much. Unless you have Olaf items and Diana items. Like, for example, he has a Nunu 3, but it has 0 items. Right? This Nunu just dies instantly. Rumble doesn't really take advantage of any of the Honeymancy bullshit, so this is pretty bad. So this board is easy to cap. When I look at this board, it's like, what does he have? He has basically a Kog'Maw with items and a Jinx with 2 items, no attack speed. It doesn't strike fear into my heart, right? Fairy is fucking busted. This strikes fear into my heart. This guy was also awkwardly very strong, but I just absolutely railed him because 6 Chrono, he just didn't have a chance to even get started, right? Archangels, like, the round was over before Archangels even got value. But yeah, other ways to cap out this board is you can also go for Vex 3. You saw what a Vex 1 does and a Vex 2 does. Obviously, that's Forbidden Idol. But, you know, if you have 3-item Vex 3, with this 6 Chrono setup will also go absolutely bananas. And I played a little bit bad in the mid game, right? A lot of that happens when I'm playing live. I could have removed this Jax and played something that was a little bit higher value. Even a frontline unit like Nasus would have been really good instead of this Jax. But yeah, that's basically the game. So you can try out 6 Chrono for yourself and let me know and see how it goes. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.